Good evening, everyone. My name is Philip Nguyen, and I'm a program manager for the Vietnamese American Roundtable, or VAR. Tonight, for our VAR and Air program, we have a special program. We're hosting a community conversation with Congressman Ro Khanna, and this is really an opportunity that we wanted to open up to our community, so that we can have open dialogues and think about how we can take action on the issues that impact all of us locally, regionally, and nationally. I'd like to introduce to the stream An Hiệp Nguyen, who is the Senior Field Representative for Congressman Ro Khanna, as well as District Director Tom Pike. I'll also pass it to An Hiệp and Tom to do some introductions and tell us a little bit about the Congressman. Go ahead.
My name is Hiệp Nguyen. I'm the Senior Field Rep for the Congressman in Santa Clara. Of course, the Congressman is in DC. And he visits our Santa Clara Bay Area every month. Congressman Ro Khanna, this time is the third time he run for Congress, and he got a very high vote for him. He's been working around the clock. He's a very dedicated congressman that worked for the Bay Area, also especially the Vietnamese community. He got involved a lot in the activity of the Vietnamese community, young and old, and he's very glad to work with the Vietnamese American professional team like yours. Yeah, and I would like to introduce Mr. Tom Pike, my district director. Tom, you want to say something?
Yeah, I'll make it quick because I see that the congressman has joined us. I did want to give a shout out to Hip, who has been doing a lot of work with Vietnamese language media related to during the COVID era in terms of vaccine information outreach and small business assistance, and quite a bit of other information that has helped to get out there. So we really have a strong team in terms of outreach within the Vietnamese American community, and having this ongoing conversation is just part of that. And thank you for being here tonight. And this is just one stop on the journey together. And with that, I'll pass it back to Philip, but I can see that Congressman Khanna is here with us.
Thanks so much for that, Tom and An Hiệp. Just to give you all a little bit of welcome, Congressman Congressman Ro Khanna. Just to give you all who are watching us on our Facebook Live and our YouTube Live some context into how we'll do the conversation with the Congressman today. I'll pass it over to Representative Khanna to share some remarks. After Representative Khanna, your remarks, we have a couple of video questions from our community that we'll play for you and give you the opportunity to be in conversation with them here on the live stream, if that's all right. So without further ado, Ro Khanna, Representative Ro Khanna.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you, HIP, for your extraordinary leadership with the Vietnamese American community, with our casework. You've been a real asset to our office, and to Tom Pike, our district director, who's been with me from the very beginning, a friend and real leader. I'm really proud of our district team, especially this year where we've had such a difficult time with so many issues. As you can tell, I'm in DC. It's been a busy day with votes and then MSNBC and hearings with the general who presided over the insurrection in the Department of Defense. So it's been a crazy day, but I wanted to do this. I've been meaning to do this, Philip, because I have wanted to reach out to the Vietnamese American community, particularly about Asian American hate crimes, Asian American incidents that are on the rise. And I have been active with Grace Meng on really speaking out, on talking about the need for funding for our nonprofits that are doing this work, talking about the need for our increased reporting on hate crimes and hate incidents, and clearly thinking about how we need to speak out. We've run a lot of forums across the district, and wanted to engage with the Vietnamese American community to see what more we can be doing. And to hear from you, what is on your mind? I mean, obviously the economy is in a difficult position still. We've got to help small businesses. We've got to help people get back to work who are struggling. We need to help people with young kids and childcare. But wanted to hear from you, what are the most urgent issues in our district, affordable housing as well, so that I can be effective in being a representative for the community. And I appreciate this opportunity. I really just want to hear from you and know that HIP and Tom in our office, that we're wide, very accessible on any issue that you care about. So with that, let me turn it over, because I want to save the bulk of our time for answering what's on your mind, listening to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Congressman. The first question, I think, is in line with the remarks that you bring up about Asian violence and anti-Asian hate. I'm going to introduce you to Linda Nguyen, who will be asking the question.
Thank you.
Thanks, Congressman Khanna, for taking my question. My name is Linda, and I work in the diversity, equity, inclusion field. So regarding the increase in Asian violence in our communities, can you speak of current efforts in Congress to prevent and address this issue, especially seeing as how many victims don't feel safe with increased law enforcement? Can you speak of solutions that are more sustainable and community-based? Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and it's a very thoughtful question. I think, one, we have to, on the national level, pass Grace Ming's bill, which will require the Department of Justice to take this seriously, to create a task force to monitor reporting, to require states to report, that will require a way of tracking both hate crimes and hate incidents. But the issue you raised between a challenge with law enforcement is real. I think that means that we have to have diversity in our law enforcement ranks. We need to have ambassadors from communities working with them, and we need to have this be a civil effort, not just police, but really faith leaders, community leaders, educators, all participating in speaking out against hate when we see it. When we see someone harassed at a coffee shop, when we see someone harassed on the road, and being vigilant about it, and coming with a sense of solidarity, so that we have many avenues of people who can stand up against this, and not just our police officers. And it's a great point. Our office, of course, is a resource if people know and observe any incidents, and we've had such reports and taken very aggressive action. But we need multiple nodes of that in a community.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Congressman. Next, I have a question from Isabella Leung, kind of in the same vein of how we begin to heal and think about what we can do outside of, calling for more policing and calling for law enforcement as our community faces these pressing issues around anti-Asian violence.
Good evening, Congressman Khanna. My name is Isabella, and over the last election cycle, while mobilizing my community to vote, I frequently heard concerns about government accountability and the safeguards against violations of our democratic and constitutional ideals. It's clear after the last administration that there are gaps in our federal ethics regulations and that voting rights reforms are much needed. My question is, what are you working on to ensure that these reforms will be successfully passed and implemented? Thank you.
Thank you for your work. Thank you for your passion. We have to pass H.R. 1 and SB 1. It's a voting rights bill. It's the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. It will restore the voting rights law, which will allow the Justice Department to enforce voting rights. So you can't just have the disempowerment of Black people, the disempowerment of brown people, the ability of local state boards to not decide elections and to close polling places. All of the provisions to deal with all of that is in H.R. 1, which we passed. We need to get rid of the filibuster to be able to pass it, and that's my focus.
Thank you for that, Congressman. I'm now going to bring up Linda Do, who's going to ask about how are we supporting personal care businesses like nail salons and the local Vietnamese American Santa Clara?
I go to one in San Mateo, of all places. So, yeah.
A certified healthy nail salon. Hi, my name is Linda Doe, owner of Blossom Nail Spa, the first Santa Clara County certified healthy nail salon. My question for you, Congressman Ro Khanna, is what can you do to help support the personal care industry, like nail salons, that comprises of mainly young immigrant women who have been impacted deeply through this pandemic, and we have not received the same relief as other businesses?
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for what you're doing. You're absolutely right. Women-led businesses, minority businesses have not received the same relief. That's why I proposed with Ayanna Pressley a bill that would target PPP funding for small businesses that are women-owned, that are minority-owned, set aside resources to do that, and put that in our next infrastructure bill. We need funding specifically to small businesses, people under 25. We need tax credits for use for hiring, because it's hard to get people hired right now. And we need to target it. So it's not going to 500 plus businesses with hundreds of employees, but really helping businesses like yours. And I'm really aware of the issue. I understand you haven't been helped, and we're pushing hard for that to be part of the next legislation.
Speaking of the administration's policies and what Congress is doing, I'm going to bring up Mimi Nguyen to ask the next question. Oh, give me a second.
Good evening. My name is Mimi Nguyen, and I am a nonprofit immigration attorney and a board member of the Vietnamese American Roundtable. My question for you this evening is, President Biden continues to deport Vietnamese nationals, a practice that is staunchly opposed by organizations such as VAR, Pivot, and CRAC. What can you and what are you willing to do to end this inhumane practice?
Well, I appreciate that. I completely oppose the mass deportation of people who've been in this country law-abiding for many, many years. I think there has to be a path to citizenship. There has to be a moratorium on deportation, and we need to do that in a way that is respectful of their contributions to this country. I mean, if you've been law-abiding, if you don't have a criminal record, if you have a family here, we shouldn't be engaged in that kind of mass deportation. And so I will continue to speak out for a path to citizenship and for stopping that, particularly with the Vietnamese American community.
Thanks for that, Congressman Khanna. The next question is from Cindy, a college student.
Khanna, my name is Cindy, and I'm a current college student, and I am incurring some debt while getting my education. So I was wondering what your stance is on student loan forgiveness, and what can you and Congress do about students like me who are just trying to give themselves the best chance? Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you for your passion. I think public college needs to be free in this country, and I think our student debt needs to be written off and forgiven for all working and middle-class people, and I assume that would cover you. I am on the bills that would do that. We're pushing President Biden to forgive that student debt. Until then, just stay with it. You got a great future. I love the tenacity, and know that I'm fighting for that policy.
Thank you, Congressman. We have a couple of questions that are a bit more localized to the Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
One is about the colonial pipeline. So I'll bring up Van Ngo to ask the question.
Hi, my name is Van Dong. I am a Caltrans landscape architect, a former Marine, and a Milpitas resident. My question is, are there any security concerns with the recent hacker attacks on the Colonial Pipeline? And is there anything that we in the Bay Area should be concerned about?
I appreciate it. Yes, we need to be concerned about the hacker attacks. A lot of our infrastructure, a lot of our critical utilities are not properly protected. We have good protection from cyber attacks for the Department of Defense, but not for ordinary utilities, not for ordinary infrastructure. We're very vulnerable. And I have being the representative from Silicon Valley, really encouraged the government to take this seriously, to have software verification, to have the standards that we need to protect our critical infrastructure, or we're going to continue to face these kind of attacks. So it's high on my radar.
Thank you for that, Congressman. I'm going to bring up another localized question, this time from Alex Kang Win.
Alex, and I'm a native in San Jose,
Yes.
California. Hi, my name is Alex, and I'm a native in San Jose, California. And one of my questions is, social media, while touted by Silicon Valley as a way for mass participation in democracy, has been criticized for its role in the pervasive and prolific spread of misinformation, particularly in the non-English speaking communities. Community groups and advocates have asked companies to invest more in identifying and addressing false news, but those calls fall on deaf ears. Number one, what is your office doing to address these issues with tech companies? And number two, what is your stance on regulating artificial intelligence impact on democratic institutions? Thank you very much for listening and answering these questions. Have a great day, everybody.
Very profound questions, very important questions. And I've consistently heard this, not just from the Vietnamese American community, from the Indian community, from the Chinese community, that when you have some of this messaging in language that is not known to these tech companies, there is a lot of misinformation, a lot of propaganda, even violence that goes undetected. And you have these cesspools of misinformation and hate propagating. I brought that up directly with Sheryl Sandberg, directly with Facebook's leadership, Twitter's leadership. And I believe we need to both regulate these companies to make sure that they have oversight over hate groups, that they're enforcing their standards. And I will continue to push them to make sure that they're hiring people from these communities who understand the language and can do a better job of enforcing standards.
A question that we have on deck, Congressman, is I know you've been doing a lot of work, and I think you are on NPR to talk about the COVID, the issue of COVID in India. And so we've got a question from Anthony Lay, who asked about just that.
Wonderful.
Okay. Hey, Ro, it's Anthony Lay.
Hi, Anthony.
My question has to do with India and with the crazy spike that's happening over there and the tragedies. So my question has to do a little bit more on, are there any concerns for it to be over here? What are we doing about that? So yeah.
Thank you, Anthony. There are a lot of concerns about India and its horrific situation. Every Indian American I know has lost family there, friends there. It's just devastating. What I'm leading is efforts to get oxygen to India, oxygen concentrators, efforts to get vaccines to India, efforts to make sure that we waive the IP so that India can produce its own vaccines as can the rest of the world. And I'm glad that the administration is now mobilizing. A lot of people in our community are mobilizing. And I am still this is right at the top of what I'm advocating for.
Thank you so much, Congressman. And I just want to say thank you so much for your time with us, with the Vietnamese American Roundtable, as well as the broader Vietnamese American community for answering all of our submitted video questions so far. At this point in time, if y'all are watching live, please drop any questions, comments you might have for the Congressman in the comment section of Facebook Live. It looks like we've got one from Tin Nguyen, and I don't think the whole comment shows up on our stream. But his question, I've got his question here. I'll go ahead and read it out to you if that's okay.
Please.
He asks, well, he's a high-tech executive from the Bay Area who has been working in Saigon, Vietnam since 2002. He'd like to bring your attention to the fact that the U.S. government has no plan to vaccinate 7 million Americans living abroad. And there are a few 100,000 American expats in Southeast Asia who will soon face the same situation, as there are 1 million American expats in India today who are in grave danger. He knows that all the state employees are in Vietnam, and probably most countries are vaccinated through embassies and consulate offices. He asks, why does the US government not take on the responsibility when we are shipping vaccines to other countries? Most of American expats pay taxes and vote as well. And he thanks you for listening to his question and responding.
I think we absolutely need to have vaccines for Americans abroad. It's a very good issue. I will raise that issue with the NIH and with the administration and push to make sure that we have a clear plan for how to vaccinate Americans abroad. You're absolutely right. They vote. They're American citizens. They deserve our government's help. And I really appreciate you raising that. No one has raised that with me. And you have my commitment to push for that.
Great. Thank you so much, Congressman. And I want to say, I mean, a part of us holding this this forum here in the middle of May is to celebrate APA Heritage Month, as well as, you know, we've talked a little bit about the anti-API hate efforts that you and your office are taking part in. We've talked a little bit about solidarity with other people of color communities, Black, Indigenous people of color communities. We've talked about domestic and international efforts to vaccinate, as well as a little bit into the misinformation and disinformation with respect to tech and business that impact our community so broadly. We have a bit of time left, and I want to just pivot it to you and your staff. If you could share a little bit with us your legislative priorities for this year.
Well, thank you, Philip, and I'll give you some closing comments, and then we can wrap up. But I really am focused on Endless Frontiers, which is going to increase massively funding for science and technology in this country and help more people, young people, underrepresented folks get into these technology careers. I'm focused on regulating tech so we don't have the proliferation of hate and on those platforms and a lot of the violence and hate against Asian Americans proliferating there. I'm focused on building our infrastructure and making sure that we have the highways and roads and bridges and broadband in our community, focused on our small businesses that we need so desperately to help the nail salons, the local businesses to help them succeed. I'm focused on getting young women and mothers back into the workforce, given the economic numbers. But mostly and we're focused on so many immigration issues, if the community has any, with HIP and Tom really leading that effort. But mostly I want to just say that I really admire the young Vietnamese mobilization, your commitment to not just issues about the Vietnamese community or Vietnam, but to social justice, economic justice, environmental justice, racial justice, to build solidarity with other communities and to think about a future of a country which is going to be multiracial, multi-ethnic. I've been so impressed with what you've done, and I look forward to having regular conversations because you're the future of not just the Vietnamese American community, of the Bay Area and of our country. And I really am proud of your contributions and thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Congressman. And on behalf of VAR and the Vietnamese American community here in the Bay Area, we thank you so much for your time and for taking the time to listen to us and answer our questions tonight on VAR on Air. For everyone out there that's watching our live stream right now, thank you all so much for participating. And we hope to have more regular conversations about what we can do to enact positive change towards justice in our communities and across the nation for future generations to come. So
thank you very much.
Thank you all so much for being here. Good night, everyone.